Today we're going to look at trigonometric ratios. Before we look at these ratios, we need to know what the words opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse are. Opposite is just a word for across, adjacent is next to, and for hypotenuse we should know it's always across from that 90-degree angle or that right angle. Okay, so here we are going to label our sides in respect to angle X. So before we start looking at angle X, we should always look at our right angle and label that as our hypotenuse, because our hypotenuse is always across or opposite the right angle. Then we're going to go back to our angle X right here, and across from it or opposite is our opposite side, and next to X is our adjacent side. We're going to look at one more labeling of a triangle. So here it is in respect to angle F. The first thing that we want to do is locate our right angle right here, and across from that is always our hypotenuse. Our opposite and adjacent side depends on which angle we are referring to. Here, for angle F, our side opposite is DE. And adjacent or next to angle F would be FG. Now that we know how to label adjacent, hypotenuse, and opposite, we could get into setting up a trig ratio. The following three right here are our three trig ratios. We have sine of a certain angle is equal to the opposite side over hypotenuse. The cosine of a certain angle is equal to adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And the tan of a certain angle is equal to the opposite over the adjacent sides. A fancy way or an acronym that you could remember: sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is opposite over adjacent, is so katoa. And remember, its sine is equal to, sine of a certain angle is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse, cosine of a certain angle is equal to the adjacent over hypotenuse, and the tan of a certain angle is equal to the opposite over adjacent. So let's take a look at setting this up. Okay, so which trig function would I use to find the measure of angle A? So right here is angle A. Let's label our sides in respect to angle A. We know that across from that 90-degree or right angle is always our hypotenuse. Across from angle A is our opposite side. And next to angle A is our adjacent side. So if we were to look at the numbers that we have a number of 8, which is our opposite, and a number for the hypotenuse. So if we have opposite and hypotenuse, that means we're using sine. So the sine of A is equal to the opposite, which is 8, over the hypotenuse. Let's look at one more. Angle B, right here. So we're going to mark off our angle. And in respect to B, we're going to label our sides. Across from the 90 degrees is our hypotenuse. Next to B is adjacent. And across from B, we have our opposite side. To determine which trig function, we're going to look at the choices that we have. We have A, which is 8, and H, which is 10. So if we have an adjacent side and a hypotenuse, we're looking at cosine. So cosine of angle B is equal to adjacent over the hypotenuse. Lastly, we have angle A. So respect to angle A, again, we're going to label our hypotenuse across from the 90 degrees. Across from angle A is our opposite side. And next to angle A is our adjacent side. So let's determine, which we have here. We have a value of 3 and a value of 4. So we're dealing with opposite and the adjacent side. So when we have adjacent and opposite, we're dealing with tan. So the tan, the tan of A is equal to the opposite over the adjacent, which is 3. Alright, so tomorrow we're going to look at how to find the missing side.